The Viking Age, roughly from the late 8th to the early 11th century, is often remembered for raids, longships, and legendary warriors. But the Vikings were far more than raiders. They were explorers, traders, poets, and warriors, living in a harsh and beautiful land of fjords, forests, and frozen rivers. Their myths and sagas paint vivid pictures of gods and heroes, of bravery and cunning, of honor and revenge. Life was shaped by the cold climate, scarce resources, and the ever-present threat of war. It is within this world that three extraordinary groups emerge: the Berserkers, the Skalds, and the Jomsvikings, each representing a different facet of Norse society: fury, memory, and discipline. To understand the Vikings, we must explore not only the battles they fought, but also the stories they told and the codes they lived by. These are tales where myth and history intertwine, where the line between human and divine often blurs. In the next moments, we will step into their world. Berserkers were the most feared warriors of the Viking Age. Their name comes from ber, meaning bear, and serker, meaning shirt, the bare-shirted ones. According to sagas, they entered a trance called the Berserker Gang, fighting with unnatural strength, immune to pain, and often biting shields as they charged into battle. Historical sources describe men who became almost superhuman in fury. Some sagas, like the Ynglinga saga, recount how Odin's chosen warriors roared like wild animals, attacking with such intensity that even allies sometimes feared them. Scholars debate the cause of this fury. Some suggest the use of hallucinogenic mushrooms like fly agaric. Others argue that it was psychological, trained warriors entering a self-induced battle trance. Perhaps it was a combination of both, alongside rituals invoking the favor of the gods. Stories include individual exploits: a berserker turning the tide of a skirmish single-handedly, or fighting with so much rage that opponents fled before contact. Yet their fury could also be dangerous to their own people. Some were exiled or outlawed, as controlling such power was difficult. Beyond battle, the berserkers' image influenced art, literature, and the collective imagination. They were warriors, shamans, and symbols of the chaotic, untamed side of the Norse world. While the berserkers fought, the Skalds remembered. Skalds were poets and historians, chroniclers of deeds and myths. They used kennings, metaphorical expressions, to compose complex and beautiful poetry that preserved the legacy of kings and warriors. Famous skalds, such as Eilifur Gudrunarsson, wrote verses that immortalized their patrons, praising deeds of bravery and cunning. Their work was not mere entertainment. It was the memory of the Viking Age, carrying stories across generations. Skaldic poetry was also political. Praise or insult could elevate or ruin reputations. In societies where oral memory was key, the skalds wielded immense power. In halls and camps, skalds shaped culture. Through music, rhythm, and verse, they connected the mortal with the divine, history with legend, and memory with identity. Among the many groups of Viking warriors, few are as mysterious as the Jomsvikings. Half legend, half history, they were said to be an elite brotherhood of mercenaries bound by a strict code of honor. Their supposed fortress was Jomsborg, often identified with the island of Wollin on the Baltic coast of today's Poland. From there, they launched raids and offered their services to kings and jarls across Scandinavia. The Jomsviking code was severe. Only men between 18 and 50 could join. Absolute obedience to commanders was required. No man was allowed to flee, no matter the odds. Quarreling among brothers was forbidden. Cowardice meant death or expulsion. This code created an image of ruthless discipline. Where ordinary Vikings raided in loose bands, the Jomsvikings were seen as professional soldiers, closer to medieval knightly orders or even Japanese samurai than to common raiders. Their most famous appearance is in the saga of the Jomsvikings and in accounts of the Battle of Hjörungavágr around the year 986. Hired to fight against the Norwegian earls, the Jomsvikings attacked with determination but were overwhelmed, yet their bravery impressed even their enemies. Captured survivors were executed, but many faced death with such stoic courage that the Norwegians admired them, granting mercy to some. Historians debate how real the Jomsvikings were. Some suggest they were a literary invention, an idealized brotherhood of perfect warriors invented by saga writers. Others believe they were based on real mercenary bands active around the Baltic, later mythologized into something larger than life. Archaeological evidence on Volin hints at a Viking settlement, but nothing definitively proves Jomsborg as described in the sagas. Regardless of their historical accuracy, the Jomsvikings represent an important idea: the evolution of Viking warfare from irregular raiding parties to disciplined, organized forces. Their myth bridges the gap between Viking chaos and medieval order, foreshadowing the warrior orders that would dominate Europe in centuries to come. So, what do these figures, Berserkers, Skalds, and Jomsvikings, tell us about the Viking Age? They show us its contradictions. The Berserker was chaos incarnate, terrifying even his allies. The Skald was memory and order, shaping history through verse. The Jomsviking was discipline, turning Viking ferocity into structure and law. Together, they reflect the full spectrum of Norse culture, wildness, creativity, and the search for meaning in a violent world. The Vikings were not just raiders. They were poets, visionaries, mercenaries, and mystics. Their stories continue to inspire because they embody extremes of human experience, fury, artistry, and honor. And though the Berserkers are long gone, the Skalds silent, and the Jomsvikings' fortress lost to time, their legends endure, whispered in sagas, echoed in history, and carried on by those who still seek to understand the North.